Listen to The Brew for the best classic hits of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. KOKL, Okmulgee, Oklahoma.
SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Stongo, Gary 5, Jeff. Just drew a blank. Sean Partridge and Rachel Sourjum, they were part of the women's marches, both nationally and locally. So we will find out what their thoughts were. Got all buttons pushed here correctly, so I don't hear myself. Okay, so if you will bear with me, we will get through this week's edition of Mvskoke Radio. But first of all, Wotko Long, thank you, sir, for coming in. We appreciate you making time for us. You're about to leave town, too, right?
Yes, I will. Friday evening.
Okay. Now, we've known you for being kind of a cultural institution for the Mvskoke people, and has participated in a lot of things that are very important to us. Plus, you have kind of a career in show business too. Is that right?
Yes. That's surprising, though. You know, I still can't believe it. I'm just glad that you gave me the opportunity to come out here and just voice a little bit about what that play is about. You know.
Okay. Well. Now, for many of us, the last time we saw you was Miko, was it?
Yeah, Miko, yeah.
Yeah, you did that part of the lead character's buddy on the streets of Tulsa, and I recognized a lot of that. You know, I said, oh yeah, that's where we used to go to the movies.
Yeah.
In those days, it was like 50 cents or something.
Yeah. You know, most of it was filmed right just within about maybe 5 miles, the whole thing, you know.
Oh gosh, the genesis of that is I believe you probably made quite a name for yourself then. The calls for your presence have been pretty numerous, I'd say. So you have been doing a lot of things since that movie, of course, and still around, right?
Oh yeah. And yeah, you know, it's just weird because it opened a lot of doors for me, and nothing I ever planned. You know, it's just that it happens, and that's what I believe. That's what the Creator's guided me. You know, and I sometimes try to question it, but I just go along with it. You know.
Let me ask you this, since you're a lot closer to it than I am. The presence of Native American people representing themselves in our cultures has been growing exponentially over the last decade. I mean, we've seen lots of actual major Hollywood movies with names like Studi and Beach and Bedard and Cardinal. What do you think of the business? Is it, from your perspective, is it really changing now where we're taking Native American people and actors more seriously?
You know, that's yeah, it is. It is. You know, we seem like we're evolving a little bit later than, you know, the Anglo people, but, you know, we're there, and we are. And that's what I like about our people, you know, because even shows you how strong we are, but just because of the trail of tears of our ancestors went through. And, you know, we made it, and we're still alive, like everybody's saying, and now we have women up in power now, and
Oh, yeah.
that is beautiful.
Isn't it?
It's, yeah, it's like a fantasy, you know. I've always wanted, my dad always said women have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
He said a lot of power.
Yeah, and now they're going to be in a position where they can use it.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
They're going to be challenged. I mean,
They're scared of them, too.
but a couple of voices out of over 400, you know, but they are there.
Mm-hmm.
They are there. Now, you've got something else. Let's focus on today's subject. You've got this production, I believe, in Oregon, right?
Yes.
Is it Pendleton by any chance?
What's that?
Is it at Pendleton?
No, it's way south of in Oregon, down the bottom down there. It's Ashland.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just right out of Medfield was where we fly into. But it's just funny that this came about. You know, Sterling told me when I made that Miko, he said, they're going to be calling you one of these days. I said, and I just forgot about it. And then he came up and confronted me with this, and I almost turned it down. But, you know, there was a quote that I remember. It was said that something about, it's far better to live with the regrets of the mistakes you have made than to live with the regret of never having tried, you know.
Yeah.
And that inspired me to, I just said yes. But it's a good experience, though. But the pros up there said they would help me out, so.
Simpler way of looking at it, if you don't bet, you don't win.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Not that I'm a gambler or anything. Well, I guess maybe I am. I'm still in this career, trying to make a living. Now, let's back up a little bit. Now, I believe the working title you're aware of is Between the Knees.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
There is a Sterling Harjo connection.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So let's start there. What is Between the Knees all about?
Between the Knees is, I think it's the coming of Christianity, the white people coming over. And the abuse, the pedophiles, and that's what we're bringing out. But at the same time, it's really written good to where we throw in humor in there too, within the horror of what happened to us. And they've really written it really good. I'll tell you, it's really powerful. And I remember I can't even remember his name, but the main director told me, he said, well, what do you think when I was getting ready to come back? So what do you think? And I said, well, either it's going to be a big hit or they're going to kill us, you know, because it's to put trying to put it in a perspective way about what happened to us and the ugliness of all of it, you know, and being forced into another religion, which was, we had our own religion anyway, you know, we believed in the Creator, you know, and it's just a different way, but I've become a believer at that myself, you know, because this was all forced on us, you know, and our people, you know.
Yeah. Religion is such a important part of the fabric of our culture.
Yeah.
Without that, we don't have anything. Now, for those folks who's probably getting the hair standing on the back of their neck, this is, you know, I presume not a full condemnation of Catholicism.
No.
It's part of what happened to us, a real experience.
Yes, because they said millions that were killed because of that, you know, not being converted over. And then there's a couple of songs that they wrote about, you know, if you don't change, we can bury you in the back under the dirt. You know, we're going to cut your hair. And it's a song that they wrote.
Now, when you're looking at the theme of this story, a couple things came to my mind. First of all, Columbus, you know, with the blessings of his king and that church there, and the atrocities that he committed against our people and kind of wiped out a whole island's population. And then something like California, where you've got Junipero Serra forcing natives to come to his missions and be slaves and do all this other stuff. And This was all, of course, in the name of the church and God, if you will. That's happened so many times. But
Yes.
what part of this story does your production cover? Does it go back that far in history, or is it more contemporary look?
Yeah, just contemporary, just right there where it starts out as they come in. Nothing further than that. The story's about the young boy that was brought up in it. And then there's another young girl comes up, and they capture her. Well, they take her from her parents, and them together, they break away from the boarding schools, and they do their traveling, what young people do, and they protest, and they fight the other boarding schools. They even kill a priest, but that was their young years, the rowdy years. And then I played the part of the elders of these two, and it's really written good. It starts out 1890 at the Wounded Knee, and it ends up in 1973 at Wounded Knee.
Oh,
and it's just, at the end is just it's a Bonnie and Clyde thing.
Sounds Lakota heavy, too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, in approaching this role, I understand that they chose you because of your experience and your character as presented in your other work. Now, the common question is how much of you is in the character and how much did you have to adapt? So was it easy for you to kind of slip on that coat?
It is, and it's funny how this character here is just the way, I guess, with the maturity of my life and then figuring out things, the real things, the truth about our people and what happened to us. I fell right into this character because, he's, I've seen where the people were kind of whipped into shape, and that's where I've always felt myself as a young man. Because, I used to think every time a white person said something, I believed it, even young kids,
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know, that's just what we were brought up in. But in this character, he's that way. And his to-be wife is the one that changes him, And he recognizes that. He tells her, he said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. So you've changed me. You've made me see, what is really happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he was kind of just, he would do whatever they would say, with his head down. But that kind of reflected me, because I know I was that way when I was growing up. And it's
Well, so many of us, I think, were. I know that was actually part of my life growing up. Is we were pretty much north side of Tulsa, surrounded by white folks, and different economic kind of things. And the rich kids looked down on us, and local other kids, the greasers, beat up on us. And we just sort of tried to survive in the middle.
Yeah, it was. We were in the middle, like it is. And we were either way of wherever the battle went, it seemed like for us. When I was brought up in Oklahoma City, when my father was a minister, that's where I really met the racists there. We used to fight the white people all the time. Sometimes we'd be walking down the roads and they'd jump out, work us over, and then drive off.
Yeah, just because you're different.
Yeah, and it's just weird, brought up in that, and that's America.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have to deal with much of that, luckily, but there were incidents here and there where, it dawned on me, hey, they're pulling this crap because I'm an Indian guy.
Yeah.
And we went on. But tell me now, let's get before we get too far away from what you're doing now, what is it that your character does what's his storyline through the book?
Just to break away from the boarding schools and to be his own self, because he's always talking about when they were traveling, when they were running. He said, "Well, I found out that I still have some land but she says, but it's close to Wounded Knee, and I want that hurt." She goes, "Yes, because I know that's where a lot of people have died, my people." She goes, "But I have you now. You're my family." And he said, I'm healing, and I can bring you back with me. We can start a new life. And that's what he was wanting to do. But, like everything else, the trouble just follows you, and you can't get away from it. Yeah.
In putting this play together, did you run into any obstacles or, let's say, challenges perhaps from the producers who wanted something done a certain way or to portray a particular cliche, shall we say? And you had to speak up. I mean, did it go that far?
It sometimes almost, but I like I said, I bit my tongue, and it worked out, and them themselves had changed because the 1491's one that are the ones that he goes and questions about that, and they ironed it out. But I said, man, there was just something in there I didn't get. One of the big ones here is about when they're going over circumcision.
Ooh.
The Christianity thing, and said that if you were walking around, they knew you weren't Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one of the big things in there. It's a real good comedy, though.
Yeah, nobody asked me if they were going to take it. They just took it.
Yeah.
The possibilities there are amazing. Now, just take a second. The 1491s that you referred to is a comedy group, correct?
Yeah.
Native American comedy group who kind of make a word play on the 1492 of Christopher Columbus's voyage. So, and then say you were a year ahead of them guys, huh?
Yeah.
And a contemporary comedy group, satire. This kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just anxious to hurry up and start my first. I think it starts on the April the 6th, and it's a really busy schedule all the way up to October, the end of October.
Oh gosh! Now this is a play, on stage, correct?
Yeah.
And it's in Ashland, Oregon. Is that worth it? Why there? I mean,
to me, it seems like that's the capital of all the theater type life, because there's a lot of theaters in there. There's a lot of them all through there, and and that's a different kind of atmosphere of people. They're all different, Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about the profession. Now, you have to prepare. You have to study your lines and block it and know where to move and what they call marking or blocking.
Yeah.
What to do on stage, this kind of thing. Was that something that was a challenge? Did you have to say, wait a minute, no, Indians don't do that kind of thing? You guys ought to know.
Yeah, exactly. I said, because even the way they speak, because they're non-Indian. I said, look, I was telling them, we don't talk that way. Y'all's expressions is a little too, they exaggerate it too much, And I said, I think that's why they wanted me. And they said, no, you're what we want you. Because when I would say my lines, they would point at me, and I said, I'm not even acting, I'm just reading, And he goes, yeah, you're the one, you're the original one, Wotko. I said,
Okay.
all right.
Did you have to deal with dialogue you thought was stupid, like, many white men come and long knives over a hill, kind of silliness?
No. I think some of the other actors that they're that way, though they portray it that way, but I always shake my head at them. So I said, no, we're not that way. Golly, it's just. But I know that it's a learning experience for me, too. And there's even a song and dance in there too, and I never thought I'd be on a course like that. I said, man, this is incredible.
You do some high kicks?
Yeah.
A little rocket kind of.
Pick me up, carry me across, stuff like that.
Oh, Lord, gee, I'd like to see that.
But, I just, I can't believe it. Because sometimes I'm sitting there studying, and I said, man, this is my job. I'm studying my lines. But it's going to be different when we get out there and rehearse doing the movements and walking around on stage and trying to remember your parts again, That's why someone told me that, said, record everybody else's, their words, and then when it comes to yours, leave that blank. So I started doing that, and it's helped out. And I'll play the tape. My parts come in, I'll say them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Sound like having somebody read lines with you.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you the live performance part. Now, you've worked in movies and things where okay, take two.
Yeah.
Let's do that again from the top. Blah blah blah. But when you're on stage, it's live. I mean, it's sort of like doing live radio. If you screw up, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
They tend to tell you too.
It's kind of scary. Because I've never done this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's just scary. And that's why I just jump right back on. Every time I think of that, I get right back on the lines again.
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to have to brainwash myself, you know. And yeah, I know everybody else's parts too. So maybe I'm overdoing it. I don't know.
Well, it could be in case somebody falls down or falls out.
I thought of that too. Yeah, I think they've done that too because I did different characters, and they're just feeling around there now, you know. But once we get up here, it's all serious then.
Well, it makes you more indispensable.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to keep this guy because he knows half the cast.
I've always told, I said, you know, all the parts that I want now since I wished I could have done this when I was younger, but I want parts like Chief Dan George now.
Oh, you know, I had the privilege of meeting that guy once.
Oh, man.
And did an interview with him. He was just the most amazing man. I was like, he pretty much stole Clint Eastwood. From Clint Eastwood, the outlaw Josie Will.
Josie Will. I have had. I play that. I know all the lines as we go. Yeah, that is one. That's a classic one there.
They made him surrender and took him out.
Yeah. No one made my horse surrender. Made him go.
Yeah, it's not for eating. It's just for looking through. You know? Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Only an Indian, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, if someone were to go catch this play, and you say it opens in April, up in Oregon, what would the storyline they would see? What would it be all about, I guess?
Oh, I think it would just have to be that, between the knees, to me, you know. Because that's all I know, you know. I'm just kind of in the dark, too, you know. And everything, when I was up, everything was just too fast for me, you know.
Have you had a full, full dress rehearsal, perhaps?
No, not yet. That was another thing. We had the seamstress come in and measure everything on us and, you know, and get us ready. And I said, do y'all know what cost is? We don't know yet. They told us to get all the measurements to feet, so everything's going to be tailor-made for us. And I asked them, I said, well, will I be able to take my costume? He said, no.
Oh, gee.
That would be neat. I said, have something tailor-made, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this like beads and leather kind of thing? Or?
My part, when we first started out, that's my character and I, we start the play out, or we don't know it, but we're walking up on the massacre.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Now, that's one of the more tragic scenes in our history. Did that affect you when you first approached it?
You know what it did? You know what it did to me though? Because they have our son. We have a grandson that in the play goes to Vietnam. But when I was in Vietnam, when I was out there and I seen that, when I was out in the jungles and we come to the villages, and then it hit me that I was like the cavalry. You know, these brown people, the villages, they made their villages out of bamboo and a lot, and we would end up burning them. And I started seeing that, and then I got in this play. It just really affected me, you know. And I said, I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
I think maybe a healing for me, maybe from way back then to Wounded Knee to my experience of burning down villages in you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy. And and then I start thinking about when we're fighting a rich man's war.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Who was it? One of the black actors, maybe Richard Pryor, I don't even know. So you got people of color, black men, brown men, fighting the yellow man for the white man. That's a paraphrase, I think, but
Muhammad Ali.
Thank you, my gosh. But this production is not all the tragic kind of thing, is it? If someone goes to see it, are they going to feel better when they leave, or are they going to be mad, kind of broken hearted?
Probably broken hearted, mad.
Mm.
Yeah, because like I said, I think the whole initial thing is to wake up those Stahidki people.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we're short on time here. I'm sure we could chit-chat for the
sure.
full program.
Yeah.
Come back when you're done, and we'll do this again. But if someone were interested in seeing this production, what information do you have?
I could probably leave some. I don't have it on me right now, but I'd have to get back with you on that because I don't really know.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Well, I'd like to do some follow-up for the paper too. So
Yeah.
we'll want that information. All right. Well, Wotko Long, if you had a last word to share with our listeners about Between the Knees, what would it be?
Oh, it's just need to come out and witness this. It's really written good, and the humor in there is just. Most Jodis will see it, and most Native people will see it, but just the Hetkies, it'll go right over their head. But there's they throw them out there, and you just have to catch them.
Sure.
But it's made beautifully.
Okay. Well, Between the Knees, look for it. We'll get some information on it when we can and share it with our listeners. So please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio. We are going to take a short break, and we're going to talk about some folks who went through the women's marches that were held recently. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio on The Brew.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio here on The Brew in a beautiful, sunny, cold Okmulgee, Oklahoma today. Joining me in the studio now are Sean Partridge and Rachel Sourjohn, two of the women who had participated in the recent women's marches. And Sean, you were at the one here in Tulsa and up in Tulsa, and Rachel, you attended the one in the nation's capital, correct?
Oh, no, I did the one in Tulsa as well.
Okay. Make sure your microphone is hot there. The entire motivation, shall we say, for these events is still an outgrowth of a recent burst of energy coming from the women's community and standing up for rights and calling out some wrongs and saying, hey, these are some actions that we needed to see happen, things like that, and got an amazing response from American women from all across the nation. I'm interested in the motivations, I guess, the reasons why you all braved a very chilly weekend and took part in there. So who wants to start for me here?
I'll go ahead and start. Thank you, Gary, for having us. And for me, now I didn't participate in the Tulsa March last year, but I had participated the year before, which was the first year of those marches in Oklahoma City. And I found the experience to be so inspiring, and to in Oklahoma City at that time, the first year, and then this time in Tulsa, it was cold that day. It was frigid and windy, but still there was a great turnout. And for me to see the diversity of the people participating, and the opportunity to come and talk about issues that are important to them as women, and it's very inspiring time together, and that I myself as a woman, as an Indigenous woman, need. And so I was really honored to be able to participate.
Rachel?
Yeah, she spoke to the diversity of it, and originally I had planned to attend the Tulsa Women's March anyway, but a friend of mine, Jordan Harmon, she was an ambassador for the Tulsa Women's March, and her cause was specifically missing and murdered Indigenous women. And so I was very honored to be able to wear red and march for those women and give them a voice and a presence at the Tulsa Women's March. And the diversity of other people of color there was just amazing. They really showed up and showed out for the Tulsa Women's March this year. I think that was my favorite part of it. After the march, we all met in the Living Arts Center there in Tulsa, just around the block from Guthrie Green, and we got to hear a bunch of different speakers, and there were, everyone was represented there. There were Latino speakers there. We had Terrence Crutcher's sister was there speaking up for the Black Lives Matter, and so there were Indigenous people there. Sean was speaking for missing and murdered Indigenous women. So just really everyone was represented there, and I really, really enjoyed that. I know some of the other women's marches have been kind of accused of being, I guess, whitewashed, and so it was very nice to have all of that diversity in there and to stand beside each other and know that we were all there united for that cause.
Let me toss this one out, and either, actually want a response from both of you, but why was it so important for Native American women to be there, to be seen and heard, and to share your strength?
Well, oftentimes I think our voices and our experiences are not highlighted, and that's wrong. As the first people of this nation, we should have a place everywhere that important decisions are being made and on these kinds of issues. And so what was exciting to see is that not only with the work of Jordan Harmon, but Rachel making these suggestions of Indigenous people to come and speak and share those experiences is critical. And for me, to have the opportunity to speak about the work that the nation is doing to try to increase safety. It was exciting because there were actually a couple of other Indigenous women that spoke before me, and so while I had a very carefully planned speech out, just the environment, and I kind of did away with that, and later, thought, man, there were things that I wish I would have made sure and said. However, the audience seemed very supportive and of the issues that we're facing as Native people. And so, it's important that when we have those opportunities to talk about the problems that we're facing in our communities, we need to take advantage of those opportunities. And for me, it was important that day to speak to the fact that oftentimes we hear, non-Native people, talking about honoring Native people. And for me, a true way to do that is, for them to stand with us on issues that we're facing and to help advocate, for the changes that we are demanding, or, when it comes to policies and those kinds of matters. So I made sure to try to stress that day when I had the opportunity to speak.
For me, it's really important just because I know that a lot of times Indigenous people and their rights are often pushed to the back, or oftentimes they're not pushed anywhere. They're just kind of forgotten. We only make up 1% of the population, and so a lot of people think that we're just not around, or if we are around, we're not necessarily identifying as Native. We're just everyone else. And so they forget that we still have our ceremonies and our religious practices and things like that. And so for us to be there just as a reminder that we are still here and we do still matter and we still want these rights. That's just like one of the people was speaking about that women got the right to vote in the 1920s, and that's just not true. White women got the right to vote in the 1920s, but Indigenous people didn't. Indigenous women didn't get the right to vote until the 1960s or 70s, and so it's very important for me to be there just in case that no one else is speaking up for us. I want to always make sure that we are represented no matter where we go. And so for me, a lot of times, even if I'm just attending just to be, I don't even mind being the token Native because at least someone is there representing us and speaking up for us.
Mm-hmm. There were times when the tokens weren't there.
Yeah.
When I was
yeah, exactly.
Now, taking that little question or statement a step further, I guess I ask you about impact. I mean, does these kind of events matter anymore? I mean, we probably both have, all of us have grown up knowing that these kind of things happen, marches and rallies and demonstrations and things, yet the problems still persist. So I'm thinking about effectiveness here. Now, was it really effective? I mean, first of all, you have to say, well, it's better than doing nothing, But do you all have any measurement at all, or any feel perhaps for how effective maybe these things are?
For me, I think as far as effectiveness goes, it was effective for me. I got to be there and stand with those women and felt empowered, and I felt represented, and so even if I'm just the one person that was affected by this and got the message, then I would say that it's effective. But I know that there were, hundreds of people and hundreds of women there and children there that were getting this message. And so I think that these things definitely make a difference, if nothing else, for like the younger generations that are coming in. They're seeing these things and they're seeing that it's okay to stand up for what you want and what is right, and that people are going to stand beside you as well. And so I definitely think that they're still effective. And I mean, the Women's March happened, a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago, and we're still talking about it. So I think that it's got the conversation going, and we're still making an impact from that Women's March today. So.
Absolutely, and I think that experience is going to impact everybody in different ways. And like Rachel had mentioned, for her, to have that experience, to leave feeling empowered, and for me, having some new connections. For some women, that might mean, hey, they're going to run for office, or they're going to start a new initiative in their community. For some women, that might mean, they are going to get out and vote and pay attention to, or be more informed about their voting. Hopefully for all the women that participated that day, they felt, connected. They felt inspired, empowered, like they mattered. And so yes, I would say that anytime you can get groups together where voices and experiences can be shared and people feel like they're being acknowledged, that has an impact, and that is positive. And right now we need that. We need more of that. So yes, and and I know with these kinds of things it is, then how do we transform that and carry that momentum forward? And I know with the organizers that took over for this year's Tulsa March, Crystal and Leanne, they have started planning an international Day of Women, or I think it's on March 6th, if I'm correct? But they've already started planning for that, a celebration for that day, and to bring women of very diverse backgrounds together to celebrate that. And so we see from that day connections being made in the organizations that were represented. Family Violence Prevention, the program that I work for the nation, had a table there that day handing out information. We had people stopping by asking about services and reaching out to us for some collaborative efforts. And so I would hope that people would say that it was a great experience and that they took something with them from that day that they're going to continue to move forward.
Now, let me ask you about that table and the people who stopped by to pick up your material. Were they primarily Native American women or just anybody?
Anyone and everyone stopped by. And I saw that not just among our table, but, it seemed like for the most part everyone there was visiting the tables, and there were a number of nonprofit organizations, service provider type organizations that were there. And so again, with the diverse group of people that were represented, that were participating, we had, and men, we have to acknowledge too the participation of men that were there that day, and men who stopped by our table, and men who were there with other organizations who came by and asked for a card, or wanted to try to collaborate on some other projects. So that's really important too, because we need, just like we say within our work at Family Violence, when it comes to reducing violence, increasing safety for Native women in our communities, men have to be part of that process, and so they have to be engaged. And so that was exciting to see as well.
Mm-hmm. Rachel, now you mentioned you'd attended the National March in D.C., is it?
Oh, no, I didn't.
No, you didn't?
I didn't, no.
But you were here locally then?
Yes, locally.
Well, let me, I guess, go in. As you see these things happening, and, you get the news clips and shots of overheads, and you see thousands and thousands of people down there. How does that make you feel when you get such a response from such a variety of women, but people, in taking it to the nation's capital? And I may sound a little cynical about it because I'd seen several of these things when I worked there. You think, is it really getting the message across, or is it just, it's another big march, another big demonstration kind of thing? What do you all think when you see those kinds of things?
For me, it gives me hope. It gives me hope that I am not the only one who thinks these things, and I'm not the only one who wants these rights and is willing to stand up for these rights. But then also, I'm sure there were plenty of people that during the civil rights marches were like, what is this really doing except making a bunch of people mad? And then look at the progress that we've made. And so I definitely don't think that people should discount protests and marches and things, because not only are those citizens, but they're voting citizens too, and our votes matter. And so definitely showing up and seeing those people, I think that it's just it gives me hope, and it makes me feel supported, and honestly, feeling supported is a huge part of activism. It's really easy to get discouraged and be cynical about it and be like, you know what, we've marched for 3 years now. What difference are we making? But knowing that support is there really helps to keep me motivated. Just because, the first Women's March, there was a lot of negativity around it, but I think that really it's starting to turn into an empowering conversation, a hopeful conversation, a very effective conversation, really. It's turning a lot less into seeing and a lot more into doing. And so.
Yeah, now you mentioned negativity, and that always hangs in my mind. gonna make somebody mad, or those old prehistoric thinking is still around, even here in this town right now. Probably people listening to this show are still kind of that mindset. So what have you run across? I mean, is this a real virulent kind of opposition or negativity, or is it just and instead of people yelling and screaming, are they just kind of grumbling in the background, saying, "Oh, the damn women," or blah 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 blah? What have you all run across?
Well, and I mean, if we are completely honest, and again, me speaking as a citizen, as an individual, not on behalf of, my role or an employee of the nation or anything, but yeah, covered it all. But I mean, these marches came as a result of the Trump administration, and I think women, to a large degree, women, for myself, seeing someone come into power that is very clearly a sexual predator, or that has that type of background, and that is concerning. And I think women, this was how I see it, was a way for women to come together to say that, listen, that this is not representative of us as a nation. So I do know that from my experience in the first march in Oklahoma City, that there were a lot of the posters, things being said, were targeted towards the administration, and understandably so, because I shared so many of those thoughts and those feelings. And so I think it's, still has contained some of those things. But I think there's also what I noticed in my participation with this year's Tulsa March, a commitment to trying to be inclusive of everyone. And, you still saw some of those signs and some of those chants, but that's the reality of the situation and how people are feeling. What I saw was carried out in a respectful manner.
For me, so I definitely see the grumbling back in the background, but then there's also that very outspoken opposition to it. And honestly, I think a lot of it comes down to just like ignorance and selective ignorance. So they just don't understand why we're doing it. And then as far as selective, like they're choosing not to understand. I think that there's a lot of in our political climate, I think that there's a lot of people that they have chosen a leader or leaders, and if they tell them that something is right or wrong, then it's right or wrong. And so it's hard for those people. I think that it's hard for them to listen to other things because they believe so wholly in these leaders. And so the Trump administration, like there are a lot of people that believe so wholly in what he's saying that they are choosing not to listen. They're choosing to not understand why we're marching, or why we believe that we don't have rights, or, well, not why we believe, but why we know that we don't have the rights that we need or that we're seeking. And so there is that out loud and that background, but it just, I think that comes with everything. And I mean, just like civil rights movement, there were those people that were very out there, and there were people that were in the background, but really it's just a matter of focusing on those that are in the foreground, making that difference.
Yeah, it seems like people are choosing not to think things out and just accepting an emotional backlash or knee drop kind of thing.
Yes, and if we have people that is their value and belief, as far as, that women, should not be in political positions, or that, women, so to speak, have a place, and that it's not in the White House or in Congress or whatever, of course we're going to continue to see those grumblings and people that aren't willing to understand, the impact of, the Women's March, or why people participate, or why it's needed. And so, unfortunately, like Rachel had mentioned, sometimes I think for some people it's maybe it's an inability to see things from a different perspective. But if people aren't willing to look outside themselves and their own experiences and take into consideration the experiences and the challenges for people of diverse backgrounds, of different communities, of different genders, it makes it obviously challenging to, share those kinds of things with them, or so yeah.
Well, as a man, being around here and working for this tribe, I know it's that kind of thing is still out there, but I personally feel like I'm encouraged by changes in attitudes and behaviors that many of our men are accepting and making part of their lives. Of course, we still got things that still happen that are really stupid, but I feel encouraged. That's just me personally. I don't know what are your thoughts on it?
Definitely, and I definitely see a lot more men standing up and stepping up into those roles, and standing up for, like, not just women, Native women, and really coming into their role, I guess. As Native people, men were always there to protect and to honor women. We're a matriarchal society, or Mvskoke Nation is anyway, and so women have always been revered in our society, and so it is very encouraging to see men stepping up, and I've also seen somewhat of a shift in going back to that, because I think we did fall away from that for a little while as a tribe and as a society, but I can really tell a difference that we're getting back to that, making sure that we're honoring our women. And I mean, it's proof even just in the Warriors Honor Women group that that whole group is just proof that we're getting back to that, and I see younger and younger men joining that group and being a part of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it is very, very encouraging.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and it's before the week before the march, I think I had emailed Rachel and was telling her just, man, how I was really looking forward to Saturday, because I was having a challenging week. And it does feel like sometimes, when we make progress, and then for there to be what feels like, steps back, focusing on those successes and the changes that are occurring is what sustains us in the work that our program is doing, just that we're doing, the changes we're making within our communities. And so it's important for us, though we will all be discouraged at times, and again, I think that's why coming together, like for the Women's March, or when we have the opportunity to come together with one another and form those connections, it's important to help inspire us to continue moving forward in our lives. And one other thing I want to point out is, I think as Native people, we underestimate our votes, we underestimate our voices, the sharing of our experiences. And we saw that with the VAWA reauthorization of 2013, people will tell you that would not have happened, and included all the provisions that it did, without the work of tribal advocates, of tribal leaders, of Native survivors. And so we saw that with the passage of that legislation, the impact that we can have. And so I think it is important for us to remember that.
In the last minute or two we have left, I'm going to ask you both for a real quick capsule response. Things like this have been going on for a long time, and I'm delighted to be witness to it. is this thinking and feeling and strength getting into down to the level of our young women? Are they accepting it? Are they stepping forward and making it part of their creed?
I think so. I definitely, whenever I invited members of our youth council, which they did not attend as like formally, but I had invited them just as young people, just because I had a captive audience, and several of them were interested. So I definitely think that they're seeing us older women standing up, and they want to be a part of it because they understand. I think that they're really getting to know what that climate is like. They're being more educated. They want to know more. I think they've always wanted to know more, but I think that now they feel empowered to go out and get that knowledge.
Okay, Sean, real quick.
I agree. And, the work and thinking about programs like Mvskoke Nation Youth Services. Well, I know Rachel's not here within that capacity, but that program, for example, and what they've established with the Youth Council, that is a way, that our youth are becoming involved. We had the Mvskoke March a few years back that Jay Fife had coordinated, that brought youth together to march to the state capitol, to bring about awareness to teen dating violence. And so I think we see a lot of things occurring nowadays that we hadn't seen before, and hopefully our youth are feeling inspired and will continue to be involved.
Okay, well, thank you, Sean Partridge and Rachel Sourjohn, for sharing your thoughts and feelings about the recent women's marches. And I want to remind our listeners these are their own opinions, and they're not speaking on behalf of their respective departments. So it's nice to kind of have people take off that uniform for a little bit and relax. All right, well, thank you so much. Okay, we'll keep our eyes on this, and we're going to have you back. All right, now we'll take a real short pause here, and I've got a couple of announcements to share with you, so stay with me here on Mvskoke Radio.
Hear that? That's the sound of hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
Okay, we're back here on Mvskoke Radio in a couple minutes here. 18th Annual Challenge Bowl is being held at the College of the Mvskoke Nation on the Fridays in February. So if you want to check that out and see these wonderful young people talking about Mvskoke culture, you might want to do that. And they actually need some volunteers to help make this thing possible. It takes a lot of people, and they could use a hand. So get a hold of Melinda Deeringwater at 918-549-2522. January 3rd through December 1st, 2019, the Mvskoke Creek Nation School Clothing Program. And it's available for at-large citizens for Head Start through 12th, and then college and technical. There are, vouchers available, I believe, for students to be able to get the clothing they need to get back to school. Okay, where am I here? Tax season's coming up, so you want to be ready for that. I know I do, and ouch. Even though there has been some delay, they say, in perhaps getting your returns, you can darn sure bet that IRS is going to be there to make sure that you make your payments. So if you got a position where you need some help, the Mvskoke Loan Fund volunteers in tax assistance and tax counseling for the elderly are making the tax season easy for their clients. If you need some help, you might want to get a hold of those folks. And if you want to help out, they need greeters, preparers, reviewers, things like that to make it happen. So you want to get a hold of the Mvskoke Loan Fund at 918-549-2608. All right, I believe that is it for me. What am I looking at here? Time to kill. No, we are, of course, beginning 2019 and looking at a brand new schedule of things. If you've got an idea, an event, perhaps a person, an artist, poet, musicians, please get a hold of me. We're looking for new interviews and folks who might be appearing on Mvskoke Radio. Now, we're staying out of religious and political kinds of things, so don't come over here with us, but we will be talking about different issues and things like that. So get a hold of me at Mvskoke Media. In the meantime, this is Gary Fife saying Mado Mabo Hedget Scott. We'll catch you later. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.